The day my divorce was finalized, my wife looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'll take the house, the cars, everything." She wasn't just ending our marriage. She was trying to erase me as a father, a man, a provider. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg. I let her believe I'd surrendered. But when she tossed me an old wooden box like it was trash, she didn't realize what she'd just handed me. Before we get into what was inside that box and how it flipped everything, take a second to subscribe to the channel. These are real-life stories about boundaries, betrayal, and quiet justice. And if that's your kind of truth, you'll want to be here for the next one. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. I pulled on my uniform before the sun was up, the same way I had for years. Shirt tucked, badge clipped, boots laced tight. Routine used to calm me. That morning, it didn't. In the kitchen, Simone stood at the counter with her back to me, stirring coffee like she had all the time in the world. No good morning, no glance, just that quiet, heavy air that tells you someone's already decided you're the problem. "You're taking him to school, right?" she asked, like it was an order she was tired of repeating. "Yeah," I said. She finally looked up, eyes flat. "Make sure you don't forget his lunch again. I'm not cleaning up after you." I hadn't forgotten his lunch in months, but I didn't correct her. I didn't ask why every sentence had to land like a slap. I grabbed my keys, packed my son's backpack, and kept moving. On the drive to his elementary school in Decatur, he talked about a science project like nothing in the world was wrong. I listened, nodded, asked questions. His little hands waved as he explained. That's the thing about being a father. Sometimes you hold your own pain down just so your kid can keep breathing easy. After drop-off, I went back home for a quick shower before my shift. The driveway already had another car in it, her parents. Again. I walked inside and heard their voices before I even made it past the entryway. Her father's laugh, loud and entitled. Her mother's soft voice that always sounded like concern, even when it was pressure. They were in my home office, not the guest room, not the living room, my office. The one place I kept my work files, my pay stubs, the folder labeled Malik College, the paperwork I didn't want anyone touching. Simone stood in the doorway like she was guarding them, arms folded, a little smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Oh, you're back," her mother said. "We were just talking about the school fund. You know, it might be easier if we helped manage it." Her father nodded like he was approving a budget. "We could put some things in our name, just to make it convenient, taxes and all that." I stared at him, then at Simone. She lifted her eyebrows, a silent dare. "It's family, Marcus," she said. "Don't make this weird." My jaw tightened. I could feel heat rise behind my eyes, that familiar mix of anger and humiliation. And still, I swallowed it. "We'll talk later," I said. Her father scoffed like I'd insulted him. Simone's smile stayed. She wanted me to say no in front of them. She wanted the fight. Instead, I walked out the back door and stood on the patio, letting the cool air hit my face. My hands curled into fists without me meaning them to. A second later, I heard the lock click behind me. That small sound shouldn't have mattered, but it did. It sounded like a decision being made without me. I stood there a moment longer than I should have, then turned and walked back inside, straight toward my office, because something in my gut told me not to wait. The office door was half open when I stepped in. Her parents had already moved back to the living room, like nothing happened, like they hadn't just planted themselves in the one place I never invited them into. My file cabinet sat a little crooked. The top drawer didn't close all the way. I didn't yank it open, didn't make a scene. I slid my hand along the edge, eased it out, and saw what my gut already knew. Papers weren't missing, but they weren't where I left them either. The folder with Malik's school fund had been shifted. A few envelopes were upside down. My pay stubs were out of order. That kind of mess doesn't happen by accident. I carried the folder to the kitchen and set it on the table. Simone didn't look up from her phone. "Did you go through my cabinet?" I asked. She tapped her screen, calm as ever. "I just organized it. It was a mess." "It wasn't a mess." Her mouth twitched like she was amused. "Marcus, you're always so dramatic. I'm trying to help." Help. That word always showed up when she wanted control. Her mother's voice floated in from the couch. "Sweetheart, I made you an appointment at the bank tomorrow. We can get those signatures done. Just some paperwork so things run smoother." I turned toward the living room. Her father didn't even bother pretending he wasn't listening. Signatures for what? I asked. Simone sighed like I'd embarrassed her. For the family, for Malik, for us. Stop acting like everything is some conspiracy. I could have said no right there. Could have told them to get out. Could have reminded her parents that I paid that mortgage, that I funded that account, that I didn't need a committee to manage my child's future. Instead, I nodded once, tight and quiet, and went to the sink to rinse my coffee mug like it mattered more than the conversation behind me. That night, I barely slept. Not because I was scared of them, because I was angry at myself. I kept replaying the moment I stood on the patio and heard that lock click. It felt small, but it didn't feel harmless. The next morning, I dropped Malik off at school again. As I walked him to the front doors, I noticed a couple parents watching, their faces doing that polite thing, smiles that don't reach the eyes. One mom, who usually waved, gave me a quick nod and turned away. At the curb, I heard someone whisper my name like it was a warning. Later, when I picked Malik up, the counselor asked if I had any concerns about stress at home. She didn't say Simone's name, but she didn't have to. The question hung there like smoke. No one accused me. Nobody raised their voice. Still, I could feel the shift. Like a story had started circulating, and I wasn't the one telling it. By the time I got back to my truck, my phone buzzed with a text from an old buddy on my shift. You ever talk to Elena Ramirez? She's solid. Forensic accounting type. She helped my cousin when his ex tried to bury money. I stared at that message longer than I should have. A part of me wanted to delete it and pretend none of this was happening. Another part, the part that had spent years running toward burning buildings, knew you don't ignore smoke. That afternoon, I found myself in a small diner off Memorial Drive, the kind with chipped mugs and laminated menus. Elena walked in wearing plain slacks and a blazer, hair pulled back, no nonsense in her face. She slid into the booth across from me and didn't waste time. What do you have? She asked. Not, how are you holding up? Not, this must be hard. Just business. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the folder I'd been guarding like it was oxygen. My hand hesitated before I placed it on the table. Elena didn't reach for it right away. She watched me instead, like she was waiting for me to admit something. The silence between us felt heavier than any argument I'd had with Simone. Because in that quiet diner, with strangers eating pancakes around us, it hit me. I wasn't just being disrespected. I was being managed, and everybody was acting like that was normal. Elena didn't flip through my folder like she was hunting for drama. She scanned the pages, paused at certain numbers, then looked at me. Do you have access to any of the accounts? She asked. The ones I know about, yeah. And the ones you don't know about? That question sat on the table between our coffee cups. I left the diner and drove straight to my credit union branch, still in my uniform, still smelling like smoke from the morning call. It wasn't even something I planned. It was just the first place my body took me when my mind couldn't settle. The lobby wasn't busy. A teller waved me over, young guy with a name tag that said Jordan. He pulled up my profile, clicked around, then frowned. Mr. Adeyemi, looks like your contact email was updated last week. Updated by who? I asked. He hesitated, eyes flicking to the side like he'd already said too much. I'm not sure, but it's set to a Gmail account I don't recognize. My throat went dry. Can you show me? I asked. Jordan turned the screen just enough for me to read it. Not my email, not even close. A random string of letters, like somebody made it in a hurry. I stood there, hands planted on the counter, trying not to let my face change. Was anything else changed? I asked. He clicked again, swallowed. There's also an account linked to your name. It's not one of the primary ones you use. It has limited access, but it exists. What do you mean linked to my name? Like, you're on it, but you're not the only one. That felt like getting hit in the chest without warning. Not because of the money, because of how clean it was, how easy it was for someone to move behind me while I kept trying to be reasonable. I thanked him, asked for printed confirmation of the email change, and walked out with the paper folded in my pocket like it could burn through fabric. When I got home, Simone was at the kitchen island, scrolling on her phone. Her mother sat beside her, humming softly while she sorted mail into neat little piles. Like she owned the place. I didn't bring up the bank, not yet. Instead, I asked something simple. Did you change my email on the account? Simone didn't even blink. Why would I do that? Because it was changed. She shrugged. Then call them and fix it. "I'm not your assistant, Marcus." Her mother smiled without warmth. "You're under a lot of stress. Don't start accusing people." I nodded once, slow, and walked past them. No shouting, no table pounding, nothing that could be turned into, "he's unstable." Upstairs, I checked my phone. The parent group chat thread for Malik's class was gone. Not muted, gone. Like I never existed in it. I tried rejoining. The link expired. A few minutes later, I got an email from the school about a schedule change. It wasn't sent to me. Elena had told me to set up a separate email for anything legal. That was the only reason I saw it. I went down to the mailbox. The flag was up, but the box was empty. No letters, no envelopes, just air. Back inside, Simone smiled at something on her screen. "You okay?" she asked, voice too sweet. I looked at her hands. Her nails were freshly done. A small detail, but it reminded me she had time for that while I was running calls, paying bills, trying to keep our kids steady. I walked into my office, shut the door, and started quietly. Screenshots of everything. Emails forwarded to my private address. Photos of the bank printout with today's date visible. I took a picture of the empty mailbox too, because it mattered. Proof that the missing mail wasn't in my head. Later, when Simone brought up the school fund again, I set my phone down on the counter with the recorder already running. "Your mom keeps talking about putting things in her name," I said. Simone rolled her eyes. "It's for Malik. Stop being paranoid." I let her keep talking. I let her say the words out loud. That night, I didn't go to bed right away. I drove through Piedmont Park with the windows cracked. Not to clear my head like some movie scene, but because I didn't trust the silence inside that house anymore. Familiar streets didn't feel familiar. The life I thought I understood was starting to split at the seams, and I could hear it every time my phone buzzed with another little change I hadn't agreed to. The school counselor's office smelled like dry erase markers and cheap air freshener. I'd been in there before for Malik's reading assessments, nothing dramatic. This time, Simone walked in like she belonged behind the desk. Her mother came with her, purse tucked under her arm, face set in that practiced expression of, "I'm worried for the child." The counselor, Ms. Patton, greeted us and gestured toward the chairs. I sat down. Simone stayed standing for a second longer, letting the silence stretch. Then she lowered herself into the chair beside her mother and sighed, as if her whole life had been heavy. "Thank you for meeting with us," Simone said. "I didn't want to do this, but I'm concerned." Ms. Patton leaned forward. "Concerned about what?" Simone glanced at me, then looked away like she couldn't even bear the sight. "Marcus has been unpredictable lately. His temper, the way he reacts. I'm just trying to keep Malik safe." Her mother nodded slowly, like she'd been praying for this moment. "We've seen it," she added. "He gets loud. He gets angry. It's not healthy for a child." I didn't flinch, but my fingers tightened around my knee under the table. That was the first time they'd said it out loud in public. Not in the kitchen, not at home. Here, where it could become a record. Ms. Patton turned to me carefully. "Mr. Adeyemi, can you respond?" I kept my voice steady. I've never yelled at my son. I've never been violent. "If there's a concern, I'd like to know what incident you're referring to." Simone's eyes snapped toward me. "See?" she said, sharp. "That tone right there. That's what I'm talking about." Her mother leaned in. "He's doing it now." I looked at Ms. Patton. I asked a question. "What's the evidence? What's the incident?" The counselor's face shifted, like the word evidence made her uncomfortable. She wasn't trained for lies delivered with tears. She was trained for conflict avoidance. "Let's not escalate," she said. Simone let out a quiet, shaky breath, then pressed her hand to her chest like she was holding herself together. "I'm not trying to take Malik away from his father," she whispered. "I just need boundaries. I need structure. Marcus has been under a lot of pressure at work, and sometimes that comes home." My throat burned. Not because I was about to cry, but because the story was so smooth, so believable. A stressed-out man, a worried mother, a sweet grandmother. Nobody wants to think the quiet guy is being cornered. Ms. Patton started talking about a temporary plan, how pickup and drop-off would be handled, how decisions about Malik's school activities should go through Simone, for now, just to avoid tension. Right there, sitting in that chair, I felt something shift, a door closing. Not in my head, in real life. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I asked for the plan in writing. I asked for a copy of any notes being made. Simone's face tightened, but she nodded like she was graciously allowing it. We walked out together. Malik's artwork lined the hallway. Paper turkeys and construction paper snowflakes. I stared at them for a second longer than I meant to, because it hit me that they were building a paper trail without me. By late afternoon, a courier envelope waited at the front door. Simone didn't hand it to me. She left it on the counter like a bill I was late paying. I opened it and read the words that made the room go quiet. Petition for divorce. Request for exclusive use of the home. Proposed division of assets. There was a list. The house, the cars, the savings, the school fund. Everything typed neatly, like a shopping order. I flipped to the vehicle section and saw it. My name removed from the SUV title. The one I used every morning. The one Malik climbed into with his backpack, trusting I'd get him there. I stared at that line until the ink blurred. Simone walked in behind me, heels clicking on the tile. "Don't act shocked," she said. "This is what happens when you make things difficult." No point in answering. I picked up my duffel from the hallway closet, grabbed a few shirts, my work boots, and Malik's favorite hoodie that he always left on the couch. I slid my phone charger into the side pocket and zipped it closed. In the living room, her parents watched like spectators. I didn't look at them. I didn't look at Simone either. The front door shut behind me with a soft thumb. The first night out of the house, I slept on my buddy Terrence's couch. He didn't ask many questions, just tossed me a blanket and said the guest bathroom was down the hall. That was his way of letting me keep my pride. By morning, my phone was already buzzing. A cousin I hadn't talked to in months texted. Simone posted something. "You okay?" Another message came from my aunt. "Baby, call me. Folks are saying you left your family." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care, because I knew the trap. If I started defending myself in group chats, it would turn into a circus. Anything I said would get screenshot and twisted. Elena called while I was brushing my teeth in Terrence's bathroom. "Don't react to her online," she said. "If she's doing this publicly, she's trying to bait you into looking unstable. She's telling people I abandoned my son. And if you argue back, she'll say you're harassing her. You need records, not arguments." That word again. Records. Later that afternoon, I went to pick up a few things from the house. The court paperwork had included a time window, like I was a delivery service coming for my own life. 2 hours. No conflict. Police escort optional. I didn't ask for the escort. Not because I was brave, but because I refused to give Simone the satisfaction of seeing me walk in with an officer like I'd done something wrong. Her parents' car was in the driveway again. Of course it was. I parked down the street, walked up with an empty duffel, and knocked. Simone opened the door and didn't step aside right away. She stood there blocking the frame, eyes scanning me like she was looking for cracks. "Don't take anything that isn't yours," she said. "I'm taking my clothes and Malik's things that I bought," I replied. She smirked. "Sure you are." Her mother hovered behind her, arms folded, like a guard. Inside, the house already felt rearranged. Family photos gone from the hallway. My boots missing from the rack. Even the throw blanket I used every night had disappeared. Simone walked ahead of me, narrating like a tour guide. "Your stuff is in the garage. I boxed it up. You're welcome." The garage door was half open. Cardboard boxes stacked near the wall, labeled in thick marker, Marcus. Some were taped shut, some weren't. I started with the obvious. Work shirts, jeans, a framed picture from my academy graduation, a few books. Then my phone vibrated. Unknown number. "Don't leave without checking the back corner. Top shelf. There's something you'll want." No name, no explanation. I froze for a second, then slipped the phone back into my pocket without looking around. If someone was watching, I didn't want them to know it mattered. I moved toward the back like I was still searching for shoes, old paint cans, holiday decorations, a dusty plastic bin. Then I saw it. A wooden box, small, scratched up, shoved behind a broken stepladder. I recognized it right away. It had been in my office for years, not on display, tucked away. The kind of box you keep because it belonged to someone you loved, not because it was worth money. Simone came into the garage behind me. "Oh, that old thing?" she said. "Take it." I was about to toss it. She nudged it with her foot like it was trash. I didn't answer. I picked it up, felt the weight, and slid it into my duffel without opening it. Outside, I loaded my bags into my truck. My hands shook a little when I reached for the zipper again, not from fear, from the sense that something had just shifted, and I couldn't name it yet. I drove straight to Elena's office parking lot because she'd told me not to open anything important alone. Chain of custody. Her words, not mine. She met me by my truck, eyes sharp. "What'd you get?" she asked. I set the box on the tailgate and flipped the latch. Inside were old letters, folded and yellowed at the edges, a few photos, and a USB drive with scuffs on the metal, like it had been handled too many times. Elena didn't gasp, didn't widen her eyes for effect. She just nodded slowly. "If we can prove where this came from and that it wasn't altered, the court will listen," she said. "But you have to do this clean. No shortcuts." My phone buzzed again as she spoke. Another message from my aunt. "Why aren't you answering? Simone said you walked out on Malik." I stared at the screen, then clicked it off. Elena watched me. "You don't owe anybody an explanation right now," she said. "You owe your son the truth. That's it." I slid the USB into a small evidence bag she handed me, sealed it, and wrote the date with her pen. My name steady even when my stomach wasn't. Then I got back into my truck and drove toward Terrence's place, already going through the next steps in my head. Elena didn't let me sit in shock for long. The next morning she texted me a checklist like I was prepping for an inspection. Bank statements, credit reports, school communication logs, utility bills, insurance policies, anything with dates and names. No opinions, no feelings, just proof. I took a day off my shift and handled it the same way I handled a fire scene. Start at the perimeter, work inward, don't miss corners. I went to the credit union first and requested official statements with stamps. Then I drove to the school and asked for a printed log of every email, every call, every notice they'd sent to Simone and to me. Ms. Patton looked surprised, but she handed it over after I signed a release. At home, Simone could rewrite the story with posts and tears. On paper, she couldn't. By lunchtime, I sat in my truck outside of Staples, scanning documents into a folder Elena created for me. She'd even labeled it, a DEYEMI_DISCOVERY. I stared at that word, discovery, like it belonged to someone else's life. Terrence called while I was feeding pages through the scanner. "You holding up?" he asked. "I'm working," I said. He exhaled, understood what I meant, and let it go. That afternoon, I went to my attorney's office in Decatur. His name was Grant Wallace, mid-50s, square shoulders, voice that carried. He was the kind of man who'd seen every version of a custody fight and didn't flinch at any of them. He flipped through Elena's initial notes, then looked at me over his glasses. "Marcus, you need to fight this. She's setting you up. If you don't push back hard, she'll take everything and paint you as the problem." "I know." Then we file motions. We contest custody. We freeze assets. My phone rang. Simone. Grant nodded toward it. "Put it on speaker." I hit the button and set it on the desk. "What?" I said, keeping my voice even. Her laugh came through like she was already celebrating. "I just wanted to make sure you understand something, Marcus. I'll take the house, the cars, everything. And you're not going to stop me." Grant's eyes narrowed. He picked up his pen and started writing as she spoke. "Malik deserves stability," Simone went on. "And you're not stable. You're angry. You scare people." "I don't scare my son," I said. "You scare me," she snapped. "And if you make this hard, I'll make sure everyone knows it. You hear me?" Grant leaned closer to the phone. "Ma'am, this is counsel. I'm advising you to..." She hung up. The room went quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner. Grant tapped his pen on the desk. "That right there? That's manipulation. We can use that. But you need to decide what kind of fight you're willing to have." I stared at my hands. The older part of me, the part that grew up watching men get chewed up in courtrooms, wanted to swing back with the same energy. The father in me wanted to keep Malik out of the blast zone. Elena's words echoed in my head. Win with paperwork, not rage. I looked up at Grant. "Let her have it," I said. He blinked. "Excuse me?" "Let her think she's winning. Let her take what she thinks she's taking. We do this clean. We do it right. We don't give her a reason to call me aggressive." Grant leaned back slowly, studying me like he was trying to figure out if I was naive or calculated. "That's risky," he said. "I've lived risky," I replied. "I'm not walking into her trap." Grant nodded once, not convinced, but listening. When I stepped out into the parking lot, the sun hit me hard. I walked toward my truck, keys already in my hand, and felt that pressure between my shoulder blades. Not imagination, not paranoia, the kind of awareness you get when you've been watched before. A sedan sat across the lot, engine running. Dark tint. No one got out. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." I didn't answer. I didn't look back at the car either. I climbed into my truck, locked the doors, and pulled out of the lot, already thinking about where to store the copies Elena told me to make. Grant met me outside Fulton County Courthouse with a folder tucked under his arm, and that look he got when he was already 5 moves ahead. "You ready?" he asked. I nodded and adjusted my tie. Wearing a suit felt strange after weeks of work shirts and bunker gear. The weight on my shoulders was different today. Not flames, paper. Inside, Simone sat 2 rows ahead with her attorney. Her mother leaned close, whispering in her ear like a coach. Simone didn't turn around when I walked in. Didn't have to. She could feel me there. She always could. The courtroom had that quiet tension people bring when they want to see who breaks first. A couple of strangers glanced my way, then looked down quickly, like they'd been told who I was. Simone's lawyer stood and spoke with smooth confidence. "Your Honor, my client has carried the bulk of the parenting responsibilities. Mr. Adeyemi's work schedule is demanding, and his behavior has become increasingly erratic. We're asking for primary physical custody to maintain stability for the minor child." He didn't say "fire captain" like it was honorable. He said it like it was an obstacle, like I chose emergencies over my son. My chest tightened for a moment, a familiar ache that came from an older place than this marriage. I'd grown up watching men get labeled dangerous when they were simply tired. I'd also watched good fathers lose because they didn't know how to speak the court's language. I kept my hands still on my lap. Simone stood when it was her turn. She didn't look like a villain. She looked like a woman doing her best. Hair neat, voice shaky, eyes glassy. "Your Honor, I'm not here to punish Marcus. I'm here because I'm scared. He's been under pressure, and when he's angry, he changes. I don't want my son growing up around that." Her mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue on cue. Simone continued, choosing her words like she'd practiced them. "Malik needs a home, a routine, a parent who can be present. I'm asking for the house so our child doesn't have to be uprooted. I'm asking for the cars because I'm the one transporting him. I'm asking for savings because I'm the one budgeting for him." I watched the judge's face. Not sympathetic exactly, but attentive. That's all she needed. The room didn't know her. They only knew what she was selling. Grant leaned toward me and murmured, "Stay steady." When it was my turn, I stood. The bailiff's eyes stayed on me like he expected something. Like Simone's story had already drawn an outline around my character. I didn't give them a show. "Your Honor, I'm requesting the court's permission to submit supplemental documentation as part of discovery, consistent with procedure," I said. The judge blinked, almost disappointed. "Mr. Adeyemi, do you have anything to say regarding the custody concerns raised?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm an active father. I've attended school meetings, handled drop-offs, paid for expenses, and maintained a stable home for my son. I'm not here to argue in circles. I'm here to present facts." Simone's attorney smirked like I'd just admitted defeat by being calm. The judge asked a few questions about schedules and temporary arrangements. Grant answered most of them. I stayed quiet unless I needed to speak. Short sentences, clear answers. No emotion offered up for someone else to interpret. When the judge called for a brief recess, chairs scraped and people stood, stretching like it was intermission. Simone's side gathered in a tight circle, whispering. Grant stepped aside to take a quick call. I walked out into the hallway alone. The air felt colder there. The marble floor carried every sound. I heard Simone before I saw her, those heels clicking sharp, confident, moving fast. She came up beside me and didn't bother lowering her voice. "You look pathetic in there," she said, "like you've already lost." I didn't respond. My jaw tightened, but I kept my gaze forward. She laughed under her breath and reached into her tote bag. Then she shoved something into my hands, a small wooden box, scratched, old, the latch worn down. "Here," she said, "this is all you deserve." Her eyes narrowed as she watched my face, hunting for reaction. When she didn't get one, she tilted her head like she was disappointed. "Take it and go, Marcus. Stop embarrassing yourself." She turned and walked away, heels tapping like punctuation. I stood there holding the box, feeling the weight of it through my palms. For a second I almost laughed, because it was so perfectly her. Take everything valuable, toss me what looked like trash, and call it mercy. Grant came back down the hall, phone still in hand. "What's that?" he asked. I didn't answer right away. My thumb slid under the latch. The metal caught slightly, then gave. The lid lifted, and the first thing I saw wasn't money or jewelry. It was paper, folded letters, a photo stuck to the bottom with old tape, and underneath that, a scratched USB drive, resting like it had been waiting for me to stop looking away. Grant leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Where did she get this?" "She's been cleaning out the house," I said. "She thought it was junk." I lifted the USB between my fingers. It wasn't new. The metal was scuffed, like it had lived in somebody's pocket, been pulled out and put away 100 times. Elena's rules ran through my head like a checklist. Don't let it leave your control. Don't plug it into anything random. Document everything. Grant didn't touch it. He didn't need to. He could tell from my face that this wasn't a lucky charm. It was a piece of the puzzle. "Keep the box," he said. "We'll reference it as the source." I snapped photos right there in the hallway. Inside of the box, the letters, the USB sitting among them. Grant dictated the time and place, while I recorded it in a note on my phone. Simple details. Fulton County Courthouse. Recess. Simone handed it to me. No drama. Just facts. When the bailiff called us back in, I carried the box like it mattered. Simone was already seated, whispering to her attorney, smiling like she'd been congratulated in the hallway. Grant stood. "Your Honor, we request to submit supplemental documentation, newly obtained today, relevant to financial disclosures and custody considerations." Simone's attorney looked annoyed. "This is highly irregular." Grant didn't flinch. "It is not. We're within the court's window for submission, and we have documented provenance. We're requesting admission for review." The judge held up a hand. "Approach." Grant walked up with the USB in a small evidence sleeve. He didn't slide it across the floor like a movie prop. He handed it to the clerk properly, like it was just another exhibit. The judge looked at it, then at me. "Mr. Adeyemi, this was obtained today?" "Yes, ma'am," I said. "It was handed to me in the courthouse hallway." Simone's smile widened. She leaned back like she was enjoying the show. "Granted," the judge said. "The court will review." Her attorney leaned toward her, whispering fast. Simone rolled her eyes like he was being dramatic. Then the clerk moved toward the computer station, and Simone's attorney went still. It wasn't subtle. His shoulders locked. His lips parted slightly as if he'd forgotten how to breathe. Simone glanced at him, confused. "What?" she mouthed. He didn't answer her. The judge nodded for the clerk to proceed. The USB slid into the port with a soft click. A window opened. One folder. One file at the top, labeled with a plain name that could have belonged to anything. Grant didn't speak. Neither did I. The judge adjusted her glasses, clicked once, and the courtroom sound faded into a quiet so thick I could hear Simone's bracelet shift when she moved her wrist. The judge didn't react at first. She just read. Not quietly to herself either. Out loud, in that steady courtroom voice that doesn't care about your feelings. The kind of voice that makes lies sound small. Transfer confirmation, she read. Amount, $8,750. Recipient, LS Holdings LLC. Memo, consulting. Simone sat up straighter. Her attorney shifted in his chair, knuckles white around his pen. The judge scrolled. Deposit receipt, she continued. Amount, $4,200. Account ending in 1182. Joint access granted. Updated email. She paused, glanced at the clerk. This email is not the respondent's. My heartbeat stayed slow, but my hands pressed harder against my thighs. Not nerves, control, like holding a weight in place. Simone let out a short laugh. That doesn't prove anything, she said. People transfer money. Marcus is twisting things because he's angry. The judge didn't look up. She kept reading. There were tables in the file, clean, plain, not flashy. One column for dates, one for amounts, one for source accounts, one for destination accounts. A simple crosswalk. Account ending 7710, salary deposit, the judge read. Transferred within 48 hours to a secondary account not disclosed in initial financial statement. Simone's eyes darted to her attorney. He leaned toward her, whispering fast. She shook her head like she couldn't hear him. The judge moved on to the next document, an email thread. Simone, she read, I received the payment. Keep it off the main account. Use the other email going forward. The words landed in the room like a door slamming. Simone's mouth opened, closed again. That's not me, she blurted. That's not even my writing. Grant stood immediately. Your Honor, the metadata shows the sender address associated with Ms. Adeyemi's device and the alternate email that was used to update financial contact information. Simone's attorney jumped up. Objection. This is a gross invasion of privacy. He has hacked her. Hacked. That was the new story. When the old one breaks, they grab the next one. Grant didn't raise his voice. No hacking occurred. The USB came from an item kept in the marital home. The documents pertain to marital assets. We have maintained chain of custody from the moment it was obtained in the courthouse hallway. In addition, we have independent verification. He nodded toward the back of the courtroom. Elena was sitting there, blazer on, hair pulled back, holding a thin folder. She looked like she was waiting for a bus, not watching a family fall apart. The judge lifted her hand. Ms. Ramirez, are you present as a forensic accountant? Yes, Your Honor, Elena said. Step forward. Elena walked to the front, not hurried, not nervous. She handed the clerk a summary sheet and waited. The judge skimmed it, then continued reading aloud, pulling from both the USB and Elena's summary. Discrepancy noted between income reported and deposits made, she read. Undisclosed account activity totaling $63,400 over a 9-month period. Simone stood up so quickly her chair scraped. This is ridiculous, she snapped. He's trying to ruin me because I don't want him near Malik. And there it was. The shift. From money to motherhood. From numbers to fear. Her eyes got wet instantly, like she had a switch inside her. Your Honor, my son is scared of him. He's unstable. He's been taking pictures of things, recording conversations. Who does that? Who does that to their own wife? The judge finally looked up. Not angry, not sympathetic, just focused. Ms. Adeyemi, sit down. Simone stayed standing, palms pressed to her chest. My child is going to suffer because of this man's obsession. He doesn't care about Malik. He cares about control. Her mother whispered loudly from the benches. Tell them what he did to you, baby. Simone's eyes flicked toward her mother, then back to the judge. He left us, she said. He walked out. He abandoned us. Malik cried. I felt Grant tense beside me. That was the moment she wanted. The moment where I'd snap and call her a liar. Where I'd look like the angry man she'd been describing. I didn't. My hands stayed on my knees. Fingers still. Face calm. Inside, my chest burned. Not because I wanted to scream. Because she was using our son as a shield. She was willing to put fear on Malik's name in public if it meant she could keep the house. The judge turned to Grant. Mr. Wallace, chain of custody? Grant spoke like he was reading from a manual. The respondent obtained the box containing the USB during recess from the petitioner in the courthouse hallway. Immediately documented time, location, and condition. Photographs taken. USB secured in evidence sleeve. No access or alteration. Presented directly to clerk upon court's return. In addition, forensic review indicates the documents match independent records we subpoenaed from the credit union. The judge nodded slowly. Simone's attorney swallowed, then tried again. Even if these documents exist, Your Honor, they don't negate the custody concerns. My client is simply... The judge cut him off. The court is concerned about the integrity of financial disclosures submitted under oath. Simone's face changed. Not sad anymore. Tight. Sharp. So what? She said. Are you saying I'm a criminal? Her attorney grabbed her arm lightly, trying to sit her down. She yanked away. You're not going to embarrass me like this, Marcus, she hissed, eyes locked on me now. You're not going to take my son away. Grant started to rise, but I lifted my hand slightly. Not dramatic, just enough. I spoke once. Your Honor, Malik deserves peace. I'm not here to punish Simone. I'm here because the truth matters. and because the court deserves honest information when it decides my son's life. It wasn't a speech, it was a statement. The judge studied me for a long beat. Then she looked back at Simone. Ms. Adeyemi, you submitted financial disclosures under penalty of perjury. The documents presented raise serious questions about undisclosed assets and misrepresentation. The court will not ignore that. Simone's breathing got louder, fast, shallow. Her hands trembled against her sides, and she tried to steady them by gripping the back of her chair. This is unfair, she said, voice breaking. The judge didn't soften. What is unfair is misleading the court. She glanced at the clerk, then at the calendar. We are going to recess. The court will review these submissions and determine appropriate sanctions. In the meantime, I am issuing an order for temporary financial restraints and requiring updated disclosures within 10 days. Simone's attorney leaned in and whispered again, urgent now. Whatever he said made Simone's eyes widen. She looked around the courtroom like she was searching for a friendly face, someone who could stop what was happening. Her mother stood up, voice sharp. This is a setup. The bailiff stepped toward her without a word. The judge's gavel came down once. Order. Everyone moved at once. Lawyers gathering papers, people standing, chairs scraping. Simone didn't move right away. She stayed frozen, staring at the monitor like she could rewrite the file by looking hard enough. Grant leaned toward me. You okay? I didn't answer him. Not because I didn't hear, because my eyes were on Simone's hands. On the way they shook now, not with grief, but with panic. For the first time since this started, she looked like someone who realized consequences were real. I stayed seated a moment longer, palms flat on my knees, letting the noise of the courtroom rise around me while Grant packed the folder back into his briefcase. Elena walked up behind us and handed Grant another sheet without saying anything, then nodded at me like a quiet confirmation. When I finally stood, my legs felt heavy but steady. I picked up the wooden box from under the bench, slid it into my bag, and followed Grant toward the doors while Simone's voice carried behind us, fast, broken, trying to catch up to a story that was no longer hers to control. The ruling didn't come with fireworks. It came in a thick envelope and a calendar date. Grant called me the moment he got it. The judge signed the order, he said. Asset division is being reviewed. She's been sanctioned for non-disclosure. Temporary restraints are in place. And custody, Marcus, you're back on equal footing. I didn't say anything for a second. My hand stayed on the steering wheel while I sat in the parking lot behind the station, engine off, just listening. Grant kept going, all business. She has to submit corrected financial disclosures. There's a compliance hearing set. If she lies again, it's going to get ugly for her. Her attorney knows it. She knows it. What about Malik? I asked. The court ordered a clear exchange schedule and a communication portal. Everything goes through that. No more lost emails, no more gatekeeping. If she violates it, we document and file. That's the lane now. That's the lane. I liked that phrasing. Simple. Clean. After we hung up, I went back to work like I always did. Calls came in. Alarms rang. People needed help. The world didn't pause because my marriage collapsed, and honestly, I didn't want it to. Simone tried to reach me the old way at first. Texts from unknown numbers. Long emails full of blame and soft apologies mixed together. Her mother left voicemails that started with prayers and ended with threats. I didn't respond. Grant handled the legal messages. Elena forwarded what mattered. Everything else sat on red until it expired. Terrence offered his spare bedroom, but I found my own place close to Malik's school. Nothing fancy. Clean. Quiet. A small table for homework. A closet big enough for his little jackets. A spot on the wall where I hung his drawings without asking permission. The first time I picked him up under the new order, Simone didn't come out. Her attorney sent a paralegal. No speeches, no tears, just a clipboard and a signature. Malik climbed into my truck and buckled himself in. "Daddy, can we get pizza?" he asked, like the last year hadn't happened. "Yeah, we can get pizza," I told him. Weeks passed. The court updates kept coming. More paperwork, more deadlines. Simone missed one, then another. Her attorney withdrew not long after. Grant didn't smile when he told me, but his tone shifted. "She's running out of places to hide," he said. I didn't celebrate. I didn't call anybody to brag. I didn't post a single thing. One afternoon, I stood in the school parking lot, hands in my coat pockets, waiting for Malik to come out. The trees were bare, and the wind cut through my sleeves. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Simone's name flashed on the screen. I looked at it for a moment, then turned the phone face down and slid it back where it belonged. A few seconds later, Malik pushed through the doors, spotted me, and ran over. He grabbed my hand without hesitation, warm and small, and started talking about his day before we even reached the truck.